Mads Errichiello, welcome to After Curfew.
Thank you.
Yay.
So excited to be
I'm
here.
I'm so happy to have you here. Thank you for coming on and yapping with us today.
I love to yap.
What have you been up to since everything is aired? Like, how is life now?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I thought it would like drastically change, and it really hasn't. Like, I'm just doing the same old, same olds. I think leading up to the show, I was like, all the anticipation was crazy. But now I'm just like spending time with my friends, spending time with my dog, and, figuring this whole thing out.
Let's talk about the reunion because this is pretty
Yes.
hot and pretty recent.
Yeah.
How did it feel? To me, my interpretation, it was like you against them.
Yeah.
And that whole situation, like, let's just really break it down. Like, what are your thoughts on it now? Did you feel ambushed in a way? It just felt like almost like the schoolyard where it's like kids are ganging up on one other person. So, what was your interpretation of it all?
Yeah, honestly, that was really a shocking moment for me because a few months prior to the show releasing, I had seen Mason out at the bar, and I was like, hey, like, we haven't talked since getting back from the pods. We didn't even talk after the pods. And I was just like, I just wanted to clear the air. Like, I don't want to go into this having like bad blood with people. This was a year ago. Like, we've all probably moved on, learned so much, grown. Like, I know I have. And he was like, yeah, absolutely. It's all my fault. Like, he takes the blame for everything. And I was like, thank you. Cause he apologized. He was like, I'm so sorry. Like, you didn't deserve that. So that was what I was expecting going into the reunion. And then after watching the show, I had texted Meg and I was like, hey, that was a tough watch. I had spoken for her and I didn't mean to. Like, there's a lot that you don't see and there's a lot that you don't know. And I thought it was just public information because she was so vocal about her connection with Mason
Mm.
that he knew as well. And so I was like, hey, I'm really sorry. And you didn't deserve that. And she was like really kind back. And I was like, if you ever want to meet up, chat about it, have a girls' talk, let's do it. Which she did decline. And I respected that. But yeah, I just thought we were like, you know, all on like decent enough terms. So then coming into the reunion when they were like one after the other, after the other, after the other, crazy. And it was frustrating for me because I sat there like having to defend myself so much and they didn't give me time to ask my questions.
Where are you and Meg now? Are you guys okay, or is it just enemies? Like, what? Where does it lie?
You know what? I don't have any hard feelings towards Meg. I mean, there's been like things coming out online that have been interesting to watch post reunion, but on my side, I just want to like move on with my life. The reunion's over, the show's over. I'm ready to move on. So I really don't have hard feelings towards Meg. And in a way, I do feel for her because just in the same way that those men tried to manipulate and gaslight me, they're doing that to her. And I see that very clearly. So I think there's like a little bit of empathy there. But overall, on my side, I'm good.
Yeah, yeah. And you could just tell you're like, kind of like, whatever, it is what it is. But
Yeah.
the receipts proof timeline, not even just black and white, you had the shit printed out in color ink. I was literally
I
gagged
know.
when you did that. Very housewife of you.
Thank
But
you.
do you think that your point was like fully, like, do you think that came across, like your point came across? Because a lot of people are like, this proved nothing. Like, it was dumb that she brought it up. So, like, what is your rebuttal to that?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, Alex is too smart of a person to ever have a paper trail, right? So he'll never outright say something in a text message that can lead back to him. So basically, what I had was like circumstantial evidence. The emojis, people say that doesn't, but it's
You're
like,
literally putting it like the skulls. I'm like,
I
yes.
know. And it's like, I personally wouldn't do that if I was like, me and my friends, like, I will defend them to the death, even if they're wrong. And I wouldn't go to someone making fun of them or whatever. And it's just the way that he was like trying to pit me against them. That's what I was trying to show. Like, he was being one way with me and another way with them. He wouldn't have said that to them. He probably would have been like, oh my God, that's so cute. Love this for you guys. But with me, he's like, oh, they're doing a reveal. Like, he was like making fun of them. And,
Yeah.
there are other receipts that I could have brought, but it's all kind of just the same like circumstantial evidence. And I just felt like, yeah, it's not like a smoking gun, but it's enough that people who are questioning him and his truth, they would be like, okay, that makes sense now.
Right. There was a certain tone to it. Like, if
Yeah.
I read that about myself, I would be like, "Okay, why the skulls? Why is this funny?" Like,
Yeah,
it had a mocking tone to it, and I guess people
exactly.
can say, like, text has no tone, but I can align with you on that where it did feel a little, like, degrading. Not, like, degrading, but just, like, poking fun. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And like,
Yeah,
if he
yeah.
claims to be such good friends with them, why are you poking fun at them when they're like, you know, sharing their reveal with him? And the part that got edited out, people are like, why'd you cover up your responses? The part that got edited out was I say, so cute, happy for them, hope it works out. So on my end, I'm being like, oh, that's so cute, so happy. But he's like poking fun at them, trying to get me, trying to bait me into being like, oh, that's so cringe. But I was happy for them.
Right. Did you say this on the finale?
I
You
did.
And it was cut out.
Yes.
And that's the power of reality TV,
I
everybody, ladies
know.
and gentlemen. It happens. The DMing with Joey, how are you 2 now? Or do you guys even communicate?
No, we've never communicated. Like, the only time we've ever, like, crossed paths is, like, on an accident. Like, we would see each other out at bars in groups or whatever. Like, we've never hung out one-on-one. I didn't know that the whole Monica Joey situation was happening. I didn't know that he was using me to make her jealous. Yeah, that came out of, like, left field for me, honestly.
Yeah, and it's so funny. I had David on the other day, and we were briefly talking about that. And he's like, Joey's character is like, he's so friendly, and that's just how he is. And I'm like, well, no, like, if I'm pursuing something with somebody, I don't fucking DM anybody. Like, if you're
Yeah,
talking like any girl, point blank, period. I don't know.
right.
I just it is a little bit like, are you fishing? Why are you complimenting me? I don't know.
Yes.
Like, you took it as flirting, correct?
I took a screenshot of it and I sent it to the girls and I was like, "Is this weird?" Cuz like I couldn't tell, but Joey and I did have like somewhat of a connection in the pods, but it just got to the point where I was like, this doesn't feel romantic. It just feels like I'm coming in here and talking to a friend. So I ended up ranking him pretty low. That's how, like you go on dates, you rank people. And then actually afterwards, I'd seen him out and like Monica was literally there and he was like, "Oh yeah, like why didn't we ever have another date?" Like I went to my producer and asked why we never had another date and I was like, "Well, Joey, I didn't think we had anything that incredible. I just thought we had a friendship." So he like that's when I figured out and this was post DM. That's when I figured out he was interested in me more than I was interested in him. So yeah, when the DM came through, I do know Joey to be a very friendly person. And I was like, how do I take this? But I was like, you know what? It's not my responsibility of how I take this because I know how I feel about him and it's just friends. So
Yeah.
that was it for me.
He gives me like a golden retriever vibe, like just a little bit of a space cadet. And sure, maybe he just wanted to reach out, but knowing that he asked you, like, hey, why did you place me so low? And like, let's have a
Mhm.
conversation. Just, it's a little bit like, were you trying to like tap, tap, tap in when you have a whole
Yeah.
nother girl next to
Yeah.
you who is amazing and beautiful and
Honestly, justice for Monica.
justice for Monica. I
Justice for
know. I
Monica.
mean, all of the girls,
Yes.
you guys came to slay. Like everyone looks so amazing at the reunion. And yeah, I feel like it all worked out for the best, you know?
It did. It really did. I mean, those men sat up there lying and like trying to like put their, you know, best lying foot forward, but just didn't work. Didn't work out for them.
Do you still talk to Alex or Mason now, or what's the communication like there?
Nothing.
No
Radio
communication?
silence. Absolutely
You
not.
just do you talk to anybody from the cast? Like, I'm assuming some of the girls you're still close with, but
Yeah.
yeah, just
Yeah.
not.
Not the guys. I like anytime the guys are involved, I'm like, ugh.
I mean, that's
I
just me,
just
period. Anytime men are involved, I'm like, no, girl, I'm okay.
why would a man be there?
Right, exactly. We don't need you.
No, but I'm really good with the girls. I love hanging out with the girls, and I have a lot of really close friends from this cast.
And you could see that. I feel like there were such good, because sometimes, females like, were pinning each other against each other. And it was very girls, girl. The whole house was giving girls, girl. So it was nice to
Yes.
see because some
Yeah.
people, it can get a little shicey. I know you and Meg had some issues, but outside of that, I think everything was pretty cordial, like for the most
Yeah.
part. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we're all like adults here, and it's such a weird experience to be dating like your friends, also boyfriends. Like, we're all like dating the same people. So you just have to have a little bit of grace when it comes to that. Like, it can get in your head, but at the end of the day, that's what this experiment is.
Okay, so let's bring it to the pods. Do you
Yes.
feel now that I'm assuming you watched everything?
Yes.
Yeah. How do you feel like you were portrayed the way that you came in there? Or do you wish that you had a different edit? Were there things that were not shown that you wish were? What are your overall thoughts on it?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm a very polarizing person. Like, some people really get where I'm coming from, and some people really don't. And that's totally fine. I think, obviously, there were like some parts that were pretty edited, especially, like conversations that I had that didn't really pertain to what it seemed like, if that makes sense, seemed like they were. And, they really wanted to give me this really dynamic edit of like, oh, she's really pure and deep with this one guy, but then she's talking about cream pies and twerking with this other guy. And it's
Like,
like,
yeah, the cream pie statement. Oh.
yes. And
That's
it's
okay, people were pissed about that. Like, "Oh, she's
so
so
mad.
different." But I will say in your defense, I mean, there have been like I show up differently to a relationship, like one relationship than I
Yeah.
would with another one. And maybe one of them is more hypersexual. And
Yeah.
that's maybe the energy that he was giving you, and you're feeding into that. So I don't think that
Totally.
there was anything wrong with showing up differently to two different people. But okay, so people were like up in arms about that. So what is your rebuttal to all the chaos?
I mean, that's the thing. Like, you don't act the same in every single relationship, right? So at one point, like, I did bring up sex with Alex and he was very uncomfortable about the topic. So I was like, okay, that's off the table. He doesn't want to talk about it on camera. I can respect that. Mason, on the other hand, he was totally fine talking about that, and we had that really fun, flirty relationship. And like, I loved that. That was so fun for me. Like, I love making a good cream pie joke. Like, and I'm very sex positive. And people are like, oh, like you talk about saving yourself for marriage. That was what I grew up in, and I've learned to stop shaming myself when it comes to sex. And now I'm very sex positive. You show up differently in different relationships. People bring different things out in you. And I think that's a super normal human thing.
We're able to look at two different things, but yeah, these are two different conversations. And knowing that Alex didn't want to talk about sex, like, of course, you're not going to push somebody into doing that, and you're going to keep it a
Right.
little more PG.
And I did try to like flirt with him. Like, I think I made a comment about like, I'll eat your pickle or something. And he was like, like he just
Not
like
in the
didn't,
pickle, Madison.
I
Oh my,
know, he like just didn't know how to handle it. And so it's not like, I was two different people. It's just I knew what he was comfortable with and I respected it.
one thing I do want to talk to you about.
Yes.
What are your thoughts now watching back when Mason said Meg instead of Mads? Did you
So
catch
many
that in real time or no?
No, so many people keep asking me about this. And again, this was a year ago, so I really truly don't remember that specific moment. But what I do know about myself is if I had heard that, I would be like, "Did you just call me Meg?" But it comes across as if like I do hear it because I go, "Oh, who me?" But that was just me flirting, like, "Oh, me." Yeah,
Mhm.
I don't think I caught on to it because we were listening to music. So,
Right.
I had, like, kind of a headphone off. Yeah, I don't think I caught it.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think you would have been like, "Ah, never mind."
No.
Like, it's whatever. No, I
No.
was, like, dying. I saw that on because I don't think I caught it when I watched it,
I
and then
didn't
I saw
either.
it on TikTok not that long ago, and I was like, "Wait, that's diabolical."
Yeah.
But I guess to happen when you're dating multiple people. So, okay,
Meg, Mads, same thing.
similar, but definitely not the same.
Oh, not the same thing. It's like tomato, tomato.
Right. So going back, I guess this is kind of like bouncing off to what we were just talking about. A lot of people are saying that you were manipulative and you were trying to, I don't know, like a finesse in a way. Like, what are your thoughts on hearing all of that?
Yeah, honestly, I don't understand where I was manipulative because I genuinely like led with my heart the whole time. And I was really honest about the way that I felt.
Right.
So I think people are taking like my blunt honesty as me trying to manipulate the situation when it just was like, this is a really difficult thing to go through, right? And you know that other people have connections. And so, for example, like when Mason, commits to me, people are saying I manipulated him into that. But Mason's a grown adult. He can make his own choices. And I never forced him. And you even hear me say, did you feel pressured into that decision? He says, no. And I mean, like, I don't understand how, I was manipulative in that moment because what I was doing was I would see, Meg come out of her dates with Mason just beaming, saying, like, I'm getting engaged, whatever. But then I was also feeling that way with him. So I was like, okay, like, that's fair. He can have two different connections. But I started getting like a little bit suspicious. And I knew that, like, Alex and I had a deeper connection, and Mason and I had more of a fun and flirty connection. So I go in and I say, hey, like, you have this connection. I have this connection. What are we doing about this? And I give him the chance to pull out. And he does it. And instead, he commits to me. And for me, I was like, oh, that feels kind of tough because I feel like he's doing that because he senses me pulling away, not
Right.
because he actually wants to be with me. Like, it just felt like he wanted to keep these two good things going until the very end. And I don't know, that just wasn't my style. And a moment that didn't get shown, which I don't even know if it was on camera, it was at the end of the day, but Meg came to me and she was like, hey, what's your relationship like with Mason? And we were basically trying to figure out if he was saying the same things to both of us, and he was. So before I go into my breakup with Mason, I had that conversation with Meg, and I knew that he was doing that to both of us. So it was more so me just being brutally honest about everything, and requesting that he be honest about everything as well.
Yeah. And I mean, that's funny. My next question was going to be what was something that was not aired that you wish
Yeah.
was? So I'm assuming it's the conversation that you had with Meg, which makes
Yeah.
sense. I mean, yeah, I feel like Mason was in over his head, and I
Mhm.
understand it's a big decision, and you have two, like, who gets the final rose, but there are
Right.
people's feelings and thoughts on the line where you can't just ride till the end.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like I ultimately made my choice, before he could make his, and if that makes me the bad guy, that's fine, but yeah, it just felt like he was kind of, like, tagging both of us along until the very end, and I just was that's not what I was there for. Like, I
Yeah,
wanted someone to be super, super sure about me, and Alex was.
yeah. Give us like a breakdown, I guess. Like, how did you and Alex like really end things?
I mean, coming out of the pods, I was just, like, I think he wanted to kind of pursue things again. And I was just more on a basis of like, we're trauma bonded now. Like, we
Right.
went through all this, so much about me, and we can have like a good friendship. So, yeah, I get my phone back, the infamous DM, and he's like, "No fucking way." And he wants to meet up at the airport. And I'm like, "Did we not just like break up?" And he's like, "I'm not leaving LA without a hug from you." And I was like, "Okay, I'll give you 10 minutes." And so that's when we meet up at the airport. And he's just like, "Please, like, stay here with me. Like, I'll go get your bags, like, I'll pay whatever." Like, he was so adamant about me staying there, and I was just like, "Did we not just break up? Like, I'm so confused where this energy is coming from."
Right. Well,
And then on top of that, he's like, "Fuck Mason, he's so weird." And I'm like, What is happening?" It was so strange.
question, and maybe this is something that I missed, so I apologize if I did, but you has he seen you prior, like he gets his phone back and then he goes to your Instagram and sees you. You guys
Mhm.
have not seen each other before, correct?
No, never.
Okay, well, you know what? This he's like, I could have bagged a baddie. Like that's
Yeah.
where I look at it. Like you're an attractive woman. He saw you're hot. It's like he's like, fuck, I just like fucked that up.
Yeah.
And that's like I'm like it's like, and I maybe you don't want to say that because like you don't want people to be like she's full of herself, whatever. But like I'm gonna say it. Like that's really what happened. And it's like I don't know. Yeah, it's interesting. Like, did you ever kind of call him out on that, or is that like kind of a conceited thing to do? I don't know, but I would be like, no, you probably just were like physically attracted to me, and that's why you want to meet me at the airport for 10 minutes.
I mean, I like at the time I understood like wanting to meet someone that you spent so much time getting to know. I just didn't think it would be so soon. Like I thought we would get back to Minneapolis, have a couple days, digest everything, and then maybe talk about meeting up. So I think in that moment it just was a whiplash moment. And I was also so tired. I was getting like 4 hours of sleep every night. Like I just there was no way I could process everything at that time. So I was just taking it as it like came to me.
Right. When you saw him, what were your thoughts? Were you like, this is my type? Thank fuck this didn't work out. Like, what were you thinking, physically wise?
So in the pods, actually, I had figured out what he looked like. And they didn't show that, but I was like, we would say that. We'd be like, I'd be like, what do you think I look like? He'd be like, what do you think I look like? Everyone thought I had dark hair. They were like, you're giving me black cat energy. And
Mm.
Alex was like, it'd be so crazy if you were blonde. And I was like, yeah, it would be. Um, but I told him, I was like, I think you're probably 6 foot, dirty blonde hair, curly hair, shaved on the sides, blue eyes. Like I had him down to a T. So I wasn't, which genuinely, like, I don't like blonde men
Okay.
often or ever. Because I feel like being blonde is like for girls only.
It is
Um,
for the girls for sure.
it's for the
Yes.
girls.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
so, what are you doing? But yeah, he's definitely not my type. He's actually completely the opposite of my type.
Yeah. But did you have any just I mean, more so because I guess you guys, yes, you trauma bonded. Did you see him though? Because sometimes like if I get to know somebody, I'm like, okay, now you're a little more physically attractive. Did you feel that at all? Or were you like, no,
No,
no.
we didn't. No, like we never kissed. We never went on a date. Like he's never even met my dog.
Oh,
So no.
period. With okay, then seeing Mason for the first time, did you guys have any connections outside of the pod, like DMs, discussions? He was fully immersed in trying to figure out what was going on with Meg, correct?
Yeah, I didn't realize it because Meg had left a day earlier than I did. But by the time I got my phone back and everything, I had figured out a couple days later that they immediately connected and were trying to make things work. So I just didn't want to step on any toes. I was like, I'm going to see myself out. Like, if, you know, it works out with them, I'll be super happy for them. So I saw Mason out like a couple times at like group settings. And we would just say hi, bye, how are you, whatever, but never had a conversation until the a few months before the show aired. Like I
Yeah.
don't even have this man's number. We
Oh,
never
wow.
followed each other on Instagram, nothing.
Whoa. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I guess no need to follow somebody that you like briefly had an entanglement
Yeah, no, I
with.
wanted to, respect Meg and their relationship and also like I chose not to be with him. So there was that was like closure enough for me. The pods was closure.
Okay, so being that Minnesota is a very small town. I mean, it's not a small town, it's a city, but it has like the small town energy. I
Yeah.
know I know Dave had tea on somebody that Lauren like the whole past situation that did you I know you knew one of the girls, but
Yeah.
was there anybody else that like then seeing the cast, did you know anything on them or were these complete strangers?
Complete strangers.
That's so interesting. Cause like
Yeah.
Minnesota, it's a city, but it's tiny to an
It's
extent.
tiny. And it's like we see each other out at the bars every time I go out. And so it's like we definitely have crossed paths in some way, but just never knew each other.
Going back, what is like the next step for you? Like, do you see yourself going on to a perfect match? Are you just gonna leave the reality TV behind? Like, what are your thoughts? I feel like you gotta like grace our TV screens again, but how are you feeling?
Yeah, I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Oh, wait, come on now. That sounded like, is there tea?
I don't know.
Okay, period. That's all I need to know. That's all
I
I
don't
need to
know.
know. Oh my
There's,
God.
it's never a full no, never a full yes. We'll
Okay.
see.
No, because perfect match would like, you would eat that up. So I'm like, Netflix producers, where are we? Let's get her on the screen.
Hey.
Now that it is all over and you have met everybody, do you think there was anybody in the pods that you could have actually been like compatible with?
No, I just it respectfully, like, I just don't think my person was there. And I think, obviously I I hate feeling like I'm a needy person, considering like my past or just what I expect in a relationship and from a partner. But I just don't think that, like, in general, Minnesota men are my cup of tea. I just think I need like a really like, or woman, but I just need someone who's just like there through it all, the ups and the downs, and like I'm there for them, they're there for me. Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course.
I just don't think that I had that in the pods.
Yeah, it's like just because you grew up in the same city doesn't mean that you guys are going to have some type of connection. I think you got
Mhm.
to definitely like expand. Who do you feel? Because I feel like all the girls really did bond really well, but was there anybody in the show that you just felt like was not a girl's girl? Because I feel like you ran the girls' girl. Like you were to me like the definition. Like every season has a girl's girl. You were that for me this season. Was there
Thank you.
anyone in there that was like a little shisty?
I mean, I don't wanna say names.
Okay, but maybe there
No.
were.
Oh, no, I mean, we all like, there's even a part in, you know, that makes it into the final edit where it's just like, "Oh, everyone's so nice, like, we're all gonna be such good friends after this." Like, that truly is how it felt in the pods. Like, we all just were, like, girls together, and it was cool.
Ooh, one thing I did want to talk to you about. Okay, so I recently saw in an article, and I don't know if this is something that Netflix is saying, but it's just like overall, you kind of set the tone being a bisexual baddie and
Thank you.
having somebody who you were potentially matched with. You guys knew each other on Tinder or
Mhm.
Hinge?
And yeah.
Hinge, not Tinder. Sorry, I'm not gonna Tinder.
No worries.
Um, like, do you think Netflix would be open to having a bisexual season? Because I feel like that would be so needed and necessary and fun.
Listen. Yes, I get so many comments and DMs constantly being like, "We need a Queer Love is Blind." I don't know how it would really work. That's above my pay grade. But
You're like, yeah.
no, literally, like, I think the drama, the tea, the love stories that could come out of a Queer Love is Blind would be chef's kiss. And also, here's me pitching myself to be the host.
Period. That
Yeah.
was actually my next thought. I'm like, let her host it. But that would
Yes.
be, I don't know, I feel like, you know, we wanna see love on all spectrums,
Yeah.
and I think that would be such a beautiful thing. So Netflix, if you are listening, let's fire it up. I'm like, yeah,
Yeah. I
yeah.
mean, imagine if, like, the girl, her name's Cassandra, imagine if we had, like, she was only there for a day, and she was like, "These men are not it," and left.
Wait, are you serious?
Yes.
That's so funny. Just like
I
these
should
are
have followed her
scrubs.
lead. I know. But, like, imagine if, like, we ended up leaving together or we ended up, like, going to Honduras. Like, just imagine, that would be so cool, and I think that there needs to be more representation of queer love on all spectrums, like you said, on Netflix,
Period.
period.
Love it.
You know, one thing I do wish that, so obviously they didn't include my talk about being bisexual, and I think probably because it really wasn't that juicy, honestly. Like, the men that I told, they'd be like, "Okay, cool." Anyway, like, it wasn't like a Devin situation, which didn't like that. But
Let's actually talk about that because that
yeah,
I don't wanna say that was the reason that he stopped that connection, but I think that was the reason why he stopped that connection.
it totally was. Yeah,
And
totally.
B, what was like I mean, did she like ever like say anything else more about that? I feel like she didn't really get a rebuttal there, I guess.
Well, I remember she had a really good connection with him. I didn't know who it was at the time. Like, we all kind of kept our cards close to our chest. But I remember her coming out of a date and just like being really upset because she had revealed that she was bisexual and he didn't take it well. But I think to her, that was just like the closure she needed in a relationship because she did go on to get engaged to someone else. It just wasn't shown. So, yeah, I think because she did have another pretty strong connection, it wasn't like, I'm going home because of this. It's just like, okay, that's not my person.
So she got, is this known to the public that she got engaged and it just was not aired?
Maybe some people know.
I don't understand how Netflix decides because I mean, I had Brittany from last season on my podcast, and that was the storyline I was hoping for. I'm like, I want to know what
Yeah.
happens with you and Leo. That's the fucking drama
Yes.
and tea right there, and we didn't get to
Right.
see it. I'm like, I don't know how they pick who gets to go on the trip and who. It's just
How
I would
they
have loved to seen her, whoever she was engaged to, and like hear that story.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's so many factors that go into who they pick to move forward onto the honeymoons, but I think one of the biggest factors is who's most likely to make it to the altar. So, I think people who haven't said I love you maybe don't make it or whatever. And I know B dot, she said to them, she was like, hey, like, we don't need to go. Like, we can figure our own things out outside of the pods. So yeah, but I mean, there were two other engagements that didn't make it.
Two other? Do we know
Mhm.
who the other couple was?
Yeah, Kylie and Brian, and they're still together.
What? Love is Blind. Hello. I mean, because we just had one success story out of all of them. You
Yeah.
know, like I feel like
No.
season isn't proving that love is blind.
Yeah, I mean, with Kylie and Brian, they are still together, but I think they just wanted to like date for a little bit longer. So, yeah, I don't know how their story would have ended up if they would have just said no at the altar and then continued to date, or if they would have said yes. But, maybe Kylie will come out with her story soon.
Yes. Okay. Come on, Kylie. We're waiting. That's
Yeah.
so interesting. Yeah. I just always wonder, like, how do they pick, because if someone's ready to get married or like take the engagement, you think they would want that on
Mhm.
TV, but we're just the speculators and you're just the cast member. I don't know. But
I
yeah.
know. Again, above my pay grade.
Above the pay grade. So what
Yeah.
are we let's like get a little recap. I know we said in the beginning what you're up to, but like are we dating? Are we very like single? Like what era are we in right now?
I'm in an era of protecting my peace.
Love
So
it.
part of that is not disclosing my relationship status at the moment. I don't know that that will be something I want to disclose ever until I'm like literally walking down the aisle, just
Mhm.
because the internet gets crazy. And I think a relationship is something I really want to protect. So, yeah, TBD if I'll ever announce a relationship. But for now, I'm just protecting my peace.
Love that. No, I understand that too. I think that especially coming from such a public eye where
Mhm.
everybody's gonna have opinions on you, that's the last thing I'd wanna do. Even like,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even post like my relationship. And it's like I just don't
Yeah,
it's one of those things like people I don't know, I believe in the evil eye and I'm like, I don't want anybody's juju on it.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And relationships are already hard enough. Like, I don't need, random people thinking that they have like, a say on whatever is happening in my relationship. So just gonna keep it on the down low.
Get on the DL. I get
Yeah.
it. Protect the peace, honey.
Yes.
Love it.
Always.
Yes. What would you say the number one piece of advice you would like, I mean, not number one piece of advice, but what's like the number one thing that you learned through this whole experience?
I mean, through this experience and through extensive therapy, yes, I'm in therapy, um, is just the power of like radical self love. Because, I think with the amount of like energy that comes at you when you go on a show like this, whether it's positive or negative, you can't live for that. You can't allow negative energy to determine who you are or positive energy to determine who you are. I think you get to determine your own truth and who you are. And it's like when you just show up as someone who loves themselves so completely, no one can say anything. Like, yeah, I've accepted this messy part of myself. That is part of who I am. And I love that version of myself too, just as much as I love the really put together version of myself. And, there's a lot of voices coming at me all the time, but I know what my truth is and I know who I am. And I do deeply like love myself. And I know some people will think that's really conceited, but I think that's kind of a precursor to getting in a successful relationship.
Mhm.
But people don't want to hear that. But yeah, I think it's just like the power of self love, truly.
Yeah, and I like what you said where the negative and the positive, because you
Mhm.
can just be so inflated and, like, be like, "I'm the best person." Like, like, but understanding that, like, you gotta be solid, you gotta be good. You can't let the
Yes.
good or bad interfere with, like, who you are, like, grounded at the end of the day.
Yeah. I mean, because if you focus on the positive and you just let that like get to your head, yes, I love my supporters and like I love my fans and I'm so thankful for them. Like, do not
Mhm.
get me wrong. But the internet is so fickle that it's like if you put your self worth in those positive things and the positive things that people are saying to you, and suddenly the internet turns on you, what does that do to you?
Yeah.
That's why, like, being grounded, knowing who you are, and just, like, existing in that space, so important.
And I can tell, like, I mean, you're definitely a girly who's gone to therapy, you've done your work. So,
Thanks.
whatever your relationship status is, whatever's next for you, I know you're going to do amazing things.
Thank
Meta,
you.
thank you so
Thank you.
much for being on After Curfew,
Yes,
and
this was so fun.
oh, anytime. Yeah, this was fun to have a little yap,
Yes,
and
love the app.
excited to see all the things you do.
Amazing. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you for being here.